You see, that's the real threat to democracy, stupid people. That's the threat. Our biggest threat to democracy is stupid people.
You know, he has a way of summing things up in a very succinct way so that everyone can understand. And I think he really hit it out of the park with that one. That's good enough for T-shirts, I think. The biggest threat to democracy is stupid people. And who has more than their fair share of stupid people? Jeff, what's your thinking? Who has more than their fair share of stupid people? Yeah, I know. The Democrats. That's who, the Democrats. It's no doubt about it. Not that Republicans don't have stupid people. Republicans definitely have stupid people. But the Democrats, they've elevated this to an all-new level, have they not? Is it me? No, it's not me. I know it's not me. In fact, this morning, going back and forth, my friend Marty is a good common sense person, all-American type, and sent me an amazing story today out of Oregon. Oregon is one of our 50 states. I don't live in one of our 50 states. I'm not in one of our 50. I'm not one of those state people. I live in the federal district, the District of Columbia. It's not a state at all. We don't have senators, and we don't have a voting member of the House of Representatives. And trust me, that is best. It is that is genius, just more proof of genius of the founders. But I digress. Going back and forth with Marty, and here's the story. And the Publica has this version of the story, although others have it as well. Non-binary. What is a non-binary person, Michael? What is a non-binary? Got some gender dysphoria issues, kind of don't really know about a lot of things. Non-binary Oregon State University professor steps down after being accused of faking what? What's he faking? Mixed race, Black, Indigenous, two-spirit identity. He's a white guy. And he's been going around telling everybody. It's like Rachel Dolezal. He's like Rachel Dolezal, but with a very small appendage. Pretty amazing stuff. An associate professor at Oregon State University has quietly stepped down from his position after facing allegations he falsely claimed Native American and African ancestry. Paul Edward Quo-Lee, that's Qwo-Li, Quo-Lee Driscoll, so really his name is Paul Driscoll, but he likes to go by Quo-Lee and pretend that he's black and pretend that he's Native American, and identifies as Native American and African and two-spirit. Two-spirit to me is like, a beer and a shot. That's you got a beer and a shot. That's two-spirit. Uses, listen to this, she, her, and when I say her, it's H-I-R. It's not because he's a professor. He misspells her. And she is S//He, because it's not normal she and it's not normal her. She, her, and they, them pronouns. Using she, her, they, them pronoun. Hey, what are your pronouns? I can't because I'd have to curse. Hang on a second. Driscoll, who was a member of the Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies Department, is a poet who has identified himself as being a Cherokee, Native American, and African, Irish, Lenape, Lumbee, Osage, Ascent. See, he's descended from Cherokee Indians plus Lumbee and Osage and Lenape and also African, but of course he's none of these things. According to the Poetry Foundation, Driscoll's poetry engages themes of inheritance and healing. This guy needs a lot of healing, I think, and is rooted in personal, unenrolled, Cherokee, two-spirit, queer, and mixed-race experience. This guy's perfect for any college campus anywhere. I think he should have a job at Harvard. Isn't this why they hired Pocahontas? Isn't this why they hired Elizabeth Warren?
My papa had high cheekbones, like all of the Indians do.
Like all of the Indians have high cheekbones, just like the senator said there. Over the years, Driscoll's trans and racial identity claims afforded him ample opportunities and speaking engagements, because who wouldn't want to hear from this guy to influence the next generation, right? In 2022, he was invited to lecture on gender and sexuality in Cherokee cultural memory at the University of British Columbia. They should get their money back. I think they should. Hey, we'd like our wampum back. They gave him wampum. They gave him a bag of beads in exchange for his just amazing stuff. He was also honored with a Stonewall Service Award in 2014 by the Conference on College Composition and Communication. The Stonewall Service Award, that's presumably a gay thing, the Stonewall Bar and the Stonewall riots and all of that. Driscoll has publicly identified as Two-Spirit Cherokee throughout his career. I don't know if Elizabeth Warren was Two-Spirit, but she was Cherokee, right? She was definitely Cherokee. That's why she's Pocahontas and everything. But identified publicly as Two-Spirit Cherokee throughout his career, has integrated these identities into his teachings, writings, academic work, with multiple videos of him on YouTube. I assume like riding a horse with a spear and a feather headdress, reciting his original poems in the Cherokee language. Somebody should check that. It's probably just gibberish, I say. But despite having been a well-respected scholar in his field, Driscoll came under scrutiny of the Tribal Alliance Against Frauds. There's an organization called the Tribal Alliance Against Frauds, because so many Democrats go around pretending to be Native American, pretending to be Indians. He doesn't even have high cheekbones. Look at that. You see this guy? He's got no cheekbones at all. And the Tribal Alliance Against Frauds is the TAAF, because everything has to be abbreviated. The TAF, which has drawn national attention for investigating claims of Native American heritage made by high-profile figures. The TAF uncovered no evidence of Driscoll's assertions of Cherokee, Lenape, Osage, Lumbee heritage or African American ancestry. Why would that be a problem? TAF, an intertribal organization of genealogists and researchers, conducted a detailed investigation into Driscoll's background beginning last year. The genealogists, who are certified experts in researching Native American and slave ancestry, were unable to substantiate any of Driscoll's claims related to his identity. They don't seem to question his sexual identity. How did he prove that? What do you have to do to prove that? So according to TAF, they began investigating Driscoll after receiving a tip out of Oregon State University from an individual who expressed concerns about Driscoll's claims. That's very good. Just amazing stuff. And you know what this makes him? A Democrat. A pretty typical, somewhat ordinary Democrat. Very ordinary. Just amazing. And that's fine, because he might be gunning for a show on MSNBC. What do you think? They could have, Rachel Levine could come on, who's the assistant secretary at the Department of Health and Human Services, who grew up playing football with the man who would become the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, thoroughly modern Millie, right? And the Democrat Party has really they've made sense of things for everyone, haven't they? And hey, and here's a young man who's going to swim against your daughter. This party is mentally ill. I don't want to be impolite, but you guys are mental. There's something wrong with your brains. Something terribly, terribly wrong. Womp, womp, womp. Okay, well, I wanted to start with that because it was in front of me this morning when I was starting, and it was too good to not talk about, because he claims to be all kinds of things. I love Two-Spirit best. Isn't that probably best? You say, well, I'm African, and I'm Cherokee Indian, and I'm various other Native American tribes, and I'm Two-Spirit, right? And LGBT, and My pronouns are S/HE-HIR, they, them. And naturally, he made his way to being a college professor at Oregon State. I wonder if he was involved in any looting or burning of police cars and things like that. Just great. The Democrats may run him for office now. Might have to run him for, he could be elected. Democrats would vote for him. They'd put him in a position of authority. That's why maybe, I don't know, maybe the Democrats are right. Trump's going to jail them all when he becomes president. He's not going to jail them all. He's not going to do anything. You guys are the ones jailing all of your political enemies. You're the left. We're not the left. You're the left, you little fascists. But never mind that. Also, lots of Kamala today. We got Barack Obama is back. Did you see Barack Obama? He's back, and he's kind of being a weirdo, which is not surprising. He's campaigning with Larry Sinclair. Isn't that weird? Campaigning with Larry Sinclair. You know, the guy that said that, well, you know the rest. He had had a sexual affair with Barack Obama while doing lots of cocaine back in the Illinois days. The news media wasn't interested, though, except they were kind of curious, if you know what I mean. What kind of curious, Michael? Well, they were not only curious, they were bi-curious. They were all kinds of curious. So, but listen to this, because Kamala, she's still running for president, apparently. In resurfaced clip, Kamala Harris fantasizes about weaponizing the Department of Justice against, quote, misinformation. Just like Hillary Clinton the other day, who's talking about criminally prosecuting people for what she says is misinformation. The New York Times and the Washington Post are in big, big trouble. We're going to have a separate cell block just for the news media. Pretty amazing stuff. Harris is, and I love this one, too. I opened my Washington Post today, and there were two stories in the Washington Post. Two stories in the Washington Post about how great the economy is and how wonderful it is, how fortunate Kamala Harris is to have such a great economy to run on, because it's better than anyone's ever seen. This is the greatest economy. Pay no attention to what's going on at the grocery store and restaurants, and never mind that, because she's telling us how great it is, and the news media jumped right in. They all sing from the same sheet music because, as you know, the news media is the most corrupt institution in America. And, boy, they're good at that at least, aren't they? They're good at being the most corrupt institution in America. Womp, womp, womp. Keep them away from the kids. That's for sure. Also, have you seen the new book? It's a bestseller on Amazon. The new book is Achievements of Kamala Harris. Have you seen the book, Achievements of Kamala Harris? I think everybody should get a stack of them to give away to your Democrat friends and family members. It's pretty amazing stuff, this Achievements of Kamala Harris book. How many pages is it? I'll get to that because that's kind of fun. I did it a couple of nights ago on my Newsmax television show on the Newsmax channel. And did I mention Newsmax is now available on YouTube TV. So you can get your Newsmax that way, too, in all kinds of ways. It's great stuff. And you saw Kamala Harris did a town hall with Univision. I like to call it Univision. It's very ethnic that way. It's like Kyiv to me. Calling Univision is like calling Kyiv. At least it is to me. Using a teleprompter at a town hall is unheard of, and saying how incompetent she is and how imbecilic her staff knows her to be. That's a good use of the word imbecilic. Now, I've got something to say about there is she's standing there, and there's video, and there's the teleprompter right in front of her, and she's facing it. But truth is, I think it's somebody else's teleprompter. But yeah, I could be wrong. I'm willing to learn, always willing to learn. Tim Walz, he's running for vice president because, shouldn't she have her husband, Doug Emhoff, Slugger Emhoff, beat me, whip me, make me add to the national debt? Tim Walz says the Electoral College needs to go, and he's on a media blitz to woo male voters because he's the manly man along with Doug Emhoff. These are their models of toxic masculinity. Amazing stuff. An update on CBS News and all of the idiocy they're going through because of what they've done to themselves. Amazing stuff. The former Democrat governor of New York was beaten by a mob of Democrats. A blind man. You remember this guy? David Patterson, beaten, along with his stepson, beaten by a mob in New York on the sidewalk. No big deal, though, because they're just Democrats. And, since we want to do away with the Electoral College, maybe we should also pack the Supreme Court, because the Democrats have big plans for America. They're not pro-American plans, but they have plans. Buy body armor. Oh, it's Friday. That's usually a pretty good thing. And the weather's real nice. The Washington Post today in their weather section said it's going to be 71 degrees, and coincidentally, it's going to feel like 71 degrees. So they say the feels like temperature matches the actual temperature, which means, I guess, less mental torment for Democrats, which makes me happy. Maybe there will be fewer shootings today or something like that. Let's take a telephone call. Don't loot anything today, okay, Democrats? Let's go to Buddy, calling from Baltimore, Maryland. Buddy, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. How you doing?
Just great, buddy. What do you say?
All right, so how long do you think it's going to be before Democrats grant migrants from Mexico and Central America the same rights as North American, Native Americans, and indigenous peoples?
Well, I think that they're doing everything they can now to give illegal aliens more rights than you and I have, buddy. They all kinds of free stuff, free housing, free food. Here's your EBT card, your welfare card. You get your driver's license. Everything's paid for. You get free tuition and free health care. And, the Democrats are trying to give illegal aliens more than what you and I have.
All there but the citizenship.
Well, and look, in Washington, D.C., for example, this is true. If you're not a citizen, you can register to vote. And that means if you're an illegal alien also, and an illegal alien Venezuelan gang member, you can register to vote in Washington, D.C., and the Democrats invite you to vote on Election Day. They just ask you very politely to not vote in federal elections, but you got a driver's license, you got all kinds of free stuff, and you can register to vote, and then they invite you, they encourage you to show up and vote, and then they ask you on the honor system just not to vote for president. You think that's going to work out well, buddy?
Or a foreign diplomat.
Yeah, foreign diplomats too, for sure. Opera isn't what it used to be, is it? Michael, I know you have season tickets to the Washington National Opera. He doesn't really. I'm only kidding. But the opera, very dramatic stuff. What's more dramatic than the opera? The New York Post has the story today. Opera featuring lesbian sex scenes, which almost everyone likes, crucifixions, which Democrats like, and bloody gore. Democrats create a lot of that. Leaves 18 people requiring medical treatment from graphic 3-hour show. It's a 3-hour show. And there it is. They've got a nun and stuff in there. But the show strikes a chord, the New York Post reports. A radical feminist opera. What's better than that? A radical feminist opera is causing major controversy, which is all they wanted, and causing disturbed attendees to require medical treatment, and it's coming to the U.S. this month. I know the entire Democrat Party can't wait. Barack Obama should go, don't you think? And he should bring Kamala. Then they could show up at the same place at the same time. Sancta Susanna tells the story of a suppressed nun's journey of self-discovery and sexuality, featuring shocking elements, including explicit lesbian scenes, real injuries, and nudity. I think the real injuries is they're really they have Doug Emhoff come in and hit women and knock them to the ground like this. That's my Doug Emhoff impersonation on the radio. That was it right there. Isn't that amazing? So it's a one-act show, but it lasts 3 hours and has no breaks. How tedious can you people be? But plenty of sex acts, real and simulated blood, and painful stunts anangside graphic portrayals of violence and nudity. Some of these shocking scenes include naked performances appearing as clappers and the church bells, other scaling walls while wearing only harnesses like that, and a crucifix-shaped sword being thrust down an actress's throat. Down her throat, it's a crucifix-shaped sword. They've got a lot of issues, these people. The performance continues to push people's boundaries. It pushes people's boundaries with a crucifix-shaped sword jammed down her throat, and the nun discovering her lesbianism and all this stuff. Such as a moment when an actress portraying Jesus speaks to a semi-naked nun, and another where performers mimic the crucifixion while being doused in fake blood. I think they should have a self-immolation. I think the Democrats are underperforming in the self-immolation realm. Sure, composed by Paul Hindersmith, the original 1921 premiere of Sancta Susanna was canceled due to outrage over its content in 1921, I can imagine. Having been deemed too blasphemous by critics, a belief still held by some today, perhaps unsurprisingly. Now, more than 100 years later, the show is being performed in Stuttgart. That's in Deutschland. If you're going to say Kiev, you got to say Stuttgart, because that's how they pronounce it there. And they're always yelling. Why are they always yelling? So it's being performed in Stuttgart, Germany for the first time in 100 years, and the immersive production has received mixed responses from audiences with reports of 18 attendees requiring medical attention for stress and more on-site, with 3 treated by a doctor for excessive nausea, too much nausea. Is that a positive review of the... Because I think in New York City that might be a positive review. During its initial performances, they've got nausea, people having to be treated by medical professionals. However, the show's team isn't concerned. I'm completely unsurprised by that. A representative from the opera told the news outlet, "We recommend that all audience members once again very carefully read the warnings so they know what to expect. Ja. Und then they click their heels." So the latest production, reimagined. They love reimagining things, don't they? They love words that don't mean anything. Reimagined by extreme performance artist Florentina Holzinger, aims to present a radical vision of the Holy Mass, pushing the boundaries of traditional opera. The Stuttgart State Opera website claims. And, but fear not, because now it's going to come to the United States, because Democrats love it. They can't get enough. They want more of this. And there's the stark naked lady. She's not stark naked. She has a nun's habit, just the headdress part of the nun's habit, while she is roller skating up a wall, otherwise stark naked, because that's what you do. And this is what the Democrat Party and the left in Germany, Stuttgart, the left is not, they're really not fit for modern society, I think. The 20th century, we had been pretty successful against the left in the 20th century, but the Democrat Party in the United States has breathed life back into the madness, and they're back because mental illness never goes away. It just takes a nap. Yeah, so look for this coming to a theater near you. It'll go to New York first, of course, because in New York, this is perfectly normal. They should perform it in the subway, and then all throw themselves in front of moving subway trains as the grand finale. Yeah, lots of real blood and fake blood, and the crucifix-shaped sword down the throat because, Well, I'll just leave it at that. We are at 888-630-9625. Let's take another phone call, Michael. And it is Friday, but there's still a lot of news to get to. There really is. And we've got Ron DeSantis for you because the aftermath of the second hurricane in a couple of weeks, pretty wild. And Ron DeSantis is out there. He is not a rectal aperture. He's a normal person. He's not like a Democrat at all, honestly. And 60 Minutes and CBS News struggling with their gender identity. Their journalistic identity. What's the difference? And they're having a lot of trouble over there at CBS because somebody asked a question of Ta-Nehisi Coates, and he just wants to wipe out the Jews. Is that not okay anymore? Come on. Speaking of Stuttgart, Germany, the Democrat Party is breathing life back into all the things from the 20th century that we thought had died. But never mind that. Amazing stuff we have going on. Yeah, Kamala was out there, and Barack Obama was out there as well. He's on the campaign trail for Kamala, but he's not spending time with Kamala. He's not appearing in person with Kamala. No. And President Trump also appearing last night or yesterday in Detroit, Michigan. We've got in this politics thing, we're going to have to take a closer look at what's happened to American politics. It's kind of like this opera that they're doing in Stuttgart. Let's take another call. Let's go to Sue, calling from Damascus, Maryland. Sue, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, happy Friday, Chris, and thanks for taking my call. The reason I'm calling, you were talking earlier, or one of your callers was talking about the rights of illegal aliens versus the rights of citizens.
Uh-huh.
Well, a lot of state leaders do not adhere to the selective service law. The selective service is very clear that even if you are an illegal alien, male, between the ages of 18 and 26, you have 30 days upon entering this country to register for the draft so that you can be called up to fight. The only people who can't be called up to fight are people here with a green card from another country. They're like what's considered non-immigrant aliens.
And women.
Now,
let's not forget about women.
Women, yes. But now if you don't do that, you can never get any kind of benefits. You can't get in-state tuition. You can't get a driver's license. You can't get any benefits from the federal government. And you are immediately eligible for deportation. And you can never be granted citizenship, ever. So all these DACA people that are saying, they want to become citizens, if they, after 30 days, had not registered for the draft, they could never be granted citizenship. And we've used this law very effectively to report alien males, 4 or 5 of them living in one house, and we report it. And they will send someone out, and they might give them an extension of 2 weeks. But if they do not register for the draft, they cannot ever get these citizens in-state tuition and any kind of benefits. For example, my son had to register to get in-state tuition in the state of Maryland. And when I testified against giving in-state tuition in Annapolis to illegals, I was able to get one of the state senators there to insert the rule that they have to prove they've registered with Selective Service. Now, I don't believe that they any longer enforce it, but this is a law on the books, Chris, and it should be enforced. And not only should they never, ever get any benefits, and I'm talking about any kind of benefits, driving a car, boarding a plane, having a bank account, any kind of benefits to illegal aliens, if they have not registered for that draft within 30 days of coming here, even if they're illegal, they have to register. And this is a wonderful tool, Chris, that our elected leaders should be enforcing.
Well, you know how the Democrats would respond to that. And, first of all, everything you're saying is true. what you're saying is 100% true, that any immigrant male coming into the United States between 18 and 25 required by federal law to register with the Selective Service for the draft, and you're supposed to do it, you're required to do it, within 30 days of arriving in the United States. And if you don't do that, the Democrats, of course, would just scream that everyone's a racist and that we're a terrible country. And even though the Democrats get us into all these wars, they like to pretend that everybody else is responsible for everything. But you raise a very interesting point, Sue, and I'm going to bet $1 that most people had no idea that even illegal alien males between the ages of 18 and 25 are required within 30 days to register for the draft with the Selective Service. And, you know, Sue, one of the things, and I've said it a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, because Democrats love to go around, they love abortion. You know, they love death more than we love life, but they love abortion. And who was it? Kamala on one of the idiot shows she was on in the last week or so, saying, well, name one law that affects a man's body. Name one law that affects a man's body. And the immediate response to that, the appropriate response is, of course, how about the draft? The draft, you know? You go off and fight and die in Vietnam, fight and die in Korea, fight and die in World War I and World War II. And the draft is kind of a big deal. Kind of. I'm sorry, Sue, go ahead.
I was just going to say, these benefits that we're extending to, I call them fugitives from justice. Their legal name is illegal alien, but I call them fugitives from justice. And by not enforcing this law, we are taking away benefits from citizens American citizens who cannot even get in-state tuition if they cannot produce a draft card. So I would really request, Chris, if you could make this an issue. You have access to a TV show and to a radio show, and you have that wonderful J.D. Vance running for vice president who not only signed up for the military, but actually went overseas, unlike the coward running with Kamala. I just think if people understood this, if our elected representatives understood this is so easily enforced. And you just, not only are they never granted citizenship, but you can start the wheels moving to deport them.
Well, let me just, you're 100% right, of course, Sue, but let me say this. The Democrats, and they're in charge of the White House and the departments and agencies, they have no interest in enforcing any laws that I'm aware of. Our immigration laws are enough to detain these people and to deport these people, but they don't enforce those laws. You can be a member of Tren de Aragua, the street gang, the prison gang out of Venezuela, and you can be a known member of Tren de Aragua, and the Democrats will still not enforce our immigration laws. You can be involved in drug trafficking or child sex trafficking, and the Democrats still won't enforce the laws because the Democrat Party is here to tear down and to destroy. They're not liberals. They're the left. That's a completely different thing. But it's a fun point that you raise, Sue. It genuinely is. And I've got a lot more fun, crazy Democrat stuff to get to today. So don't go anywhere. We are at 888-630-9625.
I want to take a moment, and can we try to think of any law that gives the government the power to make a decision?
I know what you're going to ask.
About a man's body. Let's
No.
Is there any law?
No.
Yes. No. Yeah, well, let's, to ask 114,000 dead in World War I and 415,000 dead in World War II and 36,000 dead in combat in the Korean War and 58,000 dead in Vietnam and on and on. Pay no attention. All right, let's grab a phone call, Michael. They're not bright people, are they? Let's go to Barry calling from Frederick, Maryland. Barry, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, true story. My son was born in Maryland, went kindergarten through 12th grade in Maryland. After he graduated high school, he went for about a year and a half to a small school in Pennsylvania, and then he got accepted to an Ivy League school, and he was getting ready to transfer there, but he needed one class, and that class was offered at the University of Maryland, and he was charged out-of-state tuition. Now, I'm from Maryland. My wife and I were both born in Maryland, grew up in Maryland, have paid Maryland taxes for 40 years, and my wife and I are both University of Maryland graduates, and our son was still charged out-of-state tuition because he spent a year and a half at a Pennsylvania college. That sounds fair.
So he was considered to be no longer a resident, a legal resident of Pennsylvania, so he was no longer qualified for in-state tuition.
That's correct.
Did you have him go down to Tijuana and sneak across the border? Because then I think he'd get in-state tuition, wouldn't he?
I tried every argument you can imagine. I actually spoke to the president of the university, who's at the time it was a man by the name of Loh, L-O-H. He was an Asian guy.
Uh-huh.
I spoke personally to him, and they still would not budge. I've tried every argument. So if my son snuck across the border, he could get in-state tuition. Well, sir, you know how they talk, politicians with their rambling nonsense. They're all Kamala Harris, just different shapes and sizes.
Yeah, honestly, the in-state tuition thing, and you're right, you work your whole life and don't become a crack dealer or a bank robber, and you pay lots and lots of taxes, more than you want. And then when the day comes where, hey, finally all this Maryland tax stuff pays off, then they snatch it away from you because they got to give it to a Venezuelan gang member who will be the beneficiary of your lifetime of work. Right, Barry?
Exactly. Every morning I get up and I think, I've got it. I've got so much to do today. I've got so many illegals that I've got to provide health care for, and dental care and vision plans and, housing and
you're a very
cards,
very generous person, a very generous and giving person, like most Americans.